When you talk of the muscle car era of the 1960s, many will throw out cars from the big three, such as the Camaro, the Mustang, or the Challenger. And even a few people maybe will throw out the mention of cars like the Pontiac GTO or the Plymouth Cuda. These cars are all synonymous with high horsepower, muscular lines, and that classic aggressive look in the front. Still, there was another car lurking in the shadows that was built by an unlikely manufacturer of the era and was designed to unseat them all, and would even be considered by some to be a challenger to the Corvette, and that car was the American Motors AMX. The American Motors Corporation itself first came about in 1954, when the Hudson Motor Company merged with the Nash Kelvinator Corporation and set out to compete with the likes of Studebaker and Packard as one of the alternatives at the time to the big three. Their product line was largely comprised of smaller sedans such as the Rambler and the Ambassador. But as the 1960s rolled on and America began to catch the need for speed, and seeing how profitable it could be to make these fast cars, AMC began the design phase of what would become one of the most cult classic cars of the era. The journey from idea to concept to design to production is an interesting story of American ingenuity. AMC didn't just want another muscle car to add to the American market. They wanted to make a splash and, in the process, truly make a name for themselves with it, with the goal of shedding the stigma of being just another boring compact car company and transforming the perception of AMC into one that was associated with cars that owners could truly be proud of. So in 1966, AMC released a concept called the American Motors Experimental, which easily can tell you where the eventual AMX name came from. The early design of this concept included many interesting concepts and evolutions that would eventually all boil down to the final production version of the AMX. The first 1966 AMX concept had no drivetrain, no suspension, and no interior when it hit the auto show floor. It was simply there to help gauge the audience interest on the project, which it did very well. Painted orange or metallic blue, these initial concepts gathered plenty of excitement, and enough so to convince upper-level management to send the AMX into production. AMC eventually developed a vehicle that would serve as the base design as the slightly larger brother of the AMX called the Javelin, which was targeted to compete with the likes of other pony cars like the Mustang, Camaro, and subsequent Challenger. However, at the very top of the food chain, the Chevrolet Corvette existed really in a league of its own, where no other competitive American options were available at similar price points. Dick Teague and the team at AMC saw this as a potential opening to slot into the market with their own budget Corvette competitor, and they would utilize their brand new Javelin-based AMX to do so. The AMX has a lot of similarities with the Javelin, such as sharing very similar body lines and chassis components. However, if you take a look at both of them side by side, you'll start to notice the key difference. The AMX featured a full 12-inch shorter wheelbase and the absence of a back seat by design. Unlike the full pony car-sized Javelin, the AMX was designed to be a true two-seat sports car competitor with AMC's own little twist. This would make the AMX the only real other mass-produced American two-seat sport coupe on the market, and AMC was looking to use this to ignite the same enthusiasm for AMC with this new sporty AMX as Chevrolet had done with the Corvette. The AMX was going to be the new hero car for American Motors, and they were excited about it. As the car took shape, it was apparent that the AMC would indeed be a force to be reckoned with on the track, as well as earn some respect as a grand tourer, being advertised as a sports car for the price of a sporty car. AMC had a serious market advantage over the higher-priced Corvette because they priced the AMX at well under $4,000, when a comparable Corvette hardtop started at $4,600. And to add to that, when the AMC finally came out in 1968, they would come out of the gate swinging with an amazing PR campaign. AMC would send out 2 brand new hopped-up versions of the new AMXs to go out and break 106 individual speed and endurance records to drum up hype for the new AMX, including a documented Bonneville Salt Flats run up to 189 miles an hour. Granted, the cars used for this promotion were built motors and they had pretty much everything done to them that you could do, but it was still cool to see how well they performed and all the hype they drummed up for the AMX. In 1968, with the stock AMXs, you could get 3 different engine options. And behind your choice of engine, you could also get either a 4-speed T10 manual or a 3-speed automatic transmission. In 1968, you had your choice of a 290 cubic inch V8, a 343 cubic inch V8, or a 390 cubic inch V8 with a nifty 4-barrel carburetor on top. The new AMX was described as a handsome 2-seater with American-style acceleration and European-style handling. And another publication even said the AMX is one of the best-looking cars, if not the best-looking car made in the USA. Very high praise for a car that just hit the market. Car and Driver featured the 1968 AMX in a road test, and that resulted in some impressive numbers. The top dog 390 cubic inch equipped AMX made 315 horsepower and was able to clock 0 to 60 in about 6.5 seconds. And it would go on to run the quarter mile in around 14.8 seconds at just shy of 100 miles per hour, and reach an overall top speed of 122. And for reference, the mid-range 343 cubic inch V8 would make 285 horsepower, and the super base model 290 cubic inch V8 in the AMX would make 225 horsepower. With the first year of production out of the way for the AMX, 1969 ushered in the second year of the AMX, which saw very slight changes. It was still offered the exact same drivetrain options, except there were very minor updates made, like a $52 increase in base price that changed some of the wheels around and some other interior upgrades. But the AMX in 1969 maintained very similar performance to the initial 1968 cars. There was also a handful of special edition AMXs released for 1969, but none of them being more iconic or important than the official AMX Superstock cars. These extremely limited production drag strip monsters could rip off a monstrous 10.7 second quarter mile time, thanks to their over 12-to-1 compression built 390 V8s. These cars were like any other Superstock vehicle, and they were sold without any creature comforts, and they were made solely for racing. And just 52 1969 Superstock AMXs were even built. But that brings us to 1970, which was unfortunately the final production year of the AMX. But don't worry, because the car still went out in style. Now actually, by comparison, the 1970 model year AMX had a lot of changes. The front and rear end received a total redesign, where the front end now has much more grille than it did before, and I actually prefer the way the 1970 AMX looks to the earlier cars. But that might just be me, so comment down below which one you think looks better, the earlier 68 to 69 cars or the 1970 AMX. With the 1970 model, they also had a brand new hood with a power blister scoop on it, which was intended to basically be a ram air induction system. The rear end of the AMX was also redesigned now to house a full-width taillight and a single backup light in the center. While the wheelbase remained the same 97 inches, the overall body length actually increased by 2 inches with the new front and rear fascias. For 1970, the 290 and 343 cubic inch AMC V8s were retired from the lineup and replaced with the newest offering of a 360 cubic inch V8, which killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Number one, it gave everybody more power, And number 2, because it now removed the base model engine, the 290, AMC could say that the base model cars were all way faster now than they were before. This new engine also increased the base horsepower to 290. And for those who really wanted to go toe-to-toe with the Corvettes and use the AMX for its one intended purpose, AMC also offered what they called as the Go Pack for the AMX, which was only offered on the 343, 360, and 390 cubic inch models. This package included power disc brakes up front, a heavy-duty cooling system, ram air induction, an upgraded handling package, and a twin grip rear end for maximum performance, which, if you were going to get an AMX, the Go Pack is the one to get as far as I'm concerned. 1970, though, as I mentioned before, was the last year of the AMX as a standalone model. The name itself lived on for another 2 years as a trim option on the larger AMC Javelin, but it was just a former shell of what it once was and represented. In total, just over 19,000 AMC AMXs were built over its short production run, which makes it much rarer than the comparable Corvette. And in some ways, I actually prefer the AMX over the Corvette. Yes, the Vette was objectively a better car in most metrics, but the AMX was the ultimate bit of American ingenuity. The underdog automaker who had no business going toe-to-toe with the Corvette decided to chop a foot out of the center of their pony car and turn it into a Corvette sports car rival, which it wasn't half bad at. And that alone deserves some serious credit and makes the AMX one of the most interesting and fascinating American cars ever produced. Thank you all for watching episode number 36 of our Rare Cars documentary series. If you enjoyed this video, we would greatly appreciate it if you could drop a like and also share this video with other enthusiasts. Also, please make sure that you are subscribed to the Rare Cars YouTube channel and smash the notification bell for more documentary-style videos just like this on the world's most interesting cars. Until next time, enthusiasts.